In order to not fall apart, is the ACC hunting TCU and West Virginia to steal from the Big 12? Maybe. Here's why they'll never get it. This is the Locked On Big 12, Locked On West Virginia crossover.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to a Locked On Big 12, Locked On West Virginia crossover. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. There's Mountaineer Paul of Locked On West Virginia. You know him, you love him, you make him your first listen every single day. Thanks for doing that. We will start. West Virginia, TCU leaving the Big 12. Is there ever a world where that's an actual possibility to go to the ACC? Then should those Mountaineers have never left the Big East, try to hold it together, gone somewhere not the Big 12? According to Andy Staples, it's one of the worst realignment moves of the last decade. That is 2 decades. West Virginia going to the Big 12. And then let's sneak those Mountaineers into March Madness. Here's how they're going to get in. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. All right, Paul. I mean, look, I'm going to speak from the Big 12 perspective, my perspective. I love West Virginia. I love having West Virginia in the Big 12 conference, and to see a tweet come out from somebody that covers pretty closely realignment and kind of the moves the ACC would want to make. This one comes from Christopher Lambert, who says, fully expect the ACC to target TCU, West Virginia in a bid to hold off a Big 12 raid, and the ACC is scheming to upend the Big 12. Number one, I mean, is there any shot West Virginia would pick up that phone call? And two, is there any shot that phone call actually comes down the line?
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me wonders, at the end of the day, I think West Virginia fans, we've said for years, we are very lucky to be in the Big 12. We all feel that way.
I hope so, yeah.
But, you know, if there were a scenario where the AC were all of a sudden strengthening itself, then maybe, right? Because I think we do long for those old regional rivalries. And I think you said it best the other day on one of your shows. Regionality is the biggest loss in this era of college football. And that would be, so it would be tempting from that point of view. But, you know, at the end of the day, I just don't think that this would happen, because obviously we know we're in a much stronger position than the ACC is, and we have much stronger teams in both basketball and football now than the ACC does. And I think for me anyways, I'm just not a big proponent of this happening, but it would take a lot of doing from the ACC's point of view for me to buy in on this. You know what I mean? But I'm really good on it personally. I would much rather stay in the Big 12 and try to see that through, especially if they can get some East Coast teams maybe at some point in time if the ACC does fall apart.
So if Brett Yormark came out tomorrow, Paul, and said, I don't want Pitt, I don't want Virginia Tech, I don't want Virginia, we don't want to raid the ACC, we're comfortable where we are. And then right after he says that, Jim Phillips calls and says, hey, West Virginia, we'll give you the same revenue share to come over here and play for our conference and have those teams in your backyard. I mean, that does kind of make sense. Like, that's where you're almost handcuffed to saying, hey, this is a better play for our fan base to have more rivals and more games that they can drive to. Because right now, West Virginia fans can't drive to really anything.
Right. At the end, I mean, if the same revenue was coming across, it would save West Virginia a lot, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when you're talking about what West Virginia spends in travel alone is quite a bit more than most of the other Big 12 schools. So you would save a lot of money there. There's no doubt about it. But still, money aside, in this day and age, I think conference stability still matters more for me. But certainly, yeah, I would probably be a proponent of it. But come on, you know, like the likelihood of it, it's just not going to happen, right? Like we're basically, I mean, this article is a News and Observer article from 2023, correct? So, you know, it's for me, it's like the same TCU from then is not the same TCU in West Virginia from now, right? It's West Virginia still hasn't been very good since then, and TCU would have been perfect around that time in 2023 for as a candidate. You know, the question I would ask, and I hate to ask this as a West Virginia fan, is, you know, obviously West Virginia to the ACC would be a perfect marriage for the ACC, but we've kind of lost a little bit of our luster too. I think the last few years in the competitive arenas. We've got fourth coach in 4 years in basketball, and our football program is in year 2 rebuild. So we kind of got some work to do on the field, I think, to warrant potentially anything. I'm kind of like at a loss for what we're doing sometimes.
I don't want to bury someone or put them down. I do think C.W. Lambert has. I mean, he's following things that are in deep.
He's a great researcher.
Yeah, he's Googling, man. At the very, it has. I do believe that he has sources that are telling him. It doesn't mean it always pans out. But Paul, you and I both know we've had sources say, "Hey, I really feel like this is coming." Namely, and an example for me is that BYU Kalani's Tackett. I had multiple people call and say, "Hey, he's gone. He's going to Penn State."
Oh yeah.
I kept thinking, I'm not going to tweet that. I'm not going to post that yet. Let's just see. Sometimes you have a source that they do know, and in the end, you cannot control the human beings that are in those conversations.
Right. 100%. You can't control it. Definitely not Barry and Chris. When I did this show on my show the other day, the only thing that I questioned is the timeline. Is this that, because he's not saying it's happening now. That would have been a problem for me. If you were trying to use a 2023 article to say it's happening now, that's when I would have been pissed. But he wasn't. He's just saying, hey, look, this thing that they were talking about in 2023 is plausible when that window happens in 2030. That's all he's saying here. So it's not like he's trying. If he was driving the bus to listen, Board of Regents are getting together, and that would have been a whole different kind of thing for me. Like, okay, I'm coming after this guy because this can't be happening. But yeah, he doesn't do that. He's a well-researched guy, and I even said on my show, I initially came in hot on it because I missed somebody was telling me through the phone game, listen to what this guy's saying. They're saying you guys are out of here. And I'm like, what? And then I get to looking at it and it's not the case.
Yeah. That happens a lot now, too, with the old Twitter thing. Social media, man. Yeah. We love it.
We love it.
We do love it. Hey, coming up, let's talk West Virginia in the Big 12. You mentioned, hey, there would be a match made in heaven, a good marriage with the ACC, given the rivals. What if the Big 12 can take a couple of the ACC schools, put them in their own conference, and give West Virginia a conference game against Pitt? That's a dream scenario. But Andy Staples says that West Virginia in the Big 12 isn't even working. Is that true? This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On West Virginia crossover. Hey, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go during the NBA season. I'm shoot straight. I don't love to watch a ton of NBA games, but I do love going on FanDuel, and FanDuel giving me access to enjoying those NBA games even more. Because with FanDuel, I can bet on a future like the Spurs to win the NBA Finals. And if I bet on the future using my profit boost at FanDuel.com or on the FanDuel app, I'm entered for an NBA Finals trip for 2 flights, tickets, the whole experience. So if you're ready to go to, a luxurious NBA experience, this is an opportunity. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's show is also brought to you by, get ready for TurboTax. TurboTax is where I'm going right now. Tax season just doesn't have to take over your life. TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, they handle everything, W-2s to self-employed forms, and work to get you every deduction. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate. Get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointments today. TurboTax.com/local to book today. He is the mythical, legendary Mountaineer Paul. And if you listen to him every day, which you probably do, you can follow him even more as part of the Everydayer Club. Locked on WestVirginia.supercast.com. Am I right there? Am I right?
That's it, man. You got it. You nailed it.
All the everydayers locked on big12.supercast.com or locked on westvirginia.supercast.com. And you can subscribe for ad-free listening to these shows. Paul, I was pretty taken aback when Andy Staples of On3 ranked his best and worst realignment moves of the last 2 decades. And 9th out of 10 was West Virginia to the Big 12. Staples saying the marriage has not worked, and that it's on the bottom end of the spectrum when you're asking or talking about teams that have moved conferences. He says that it was great to see A&M go to the SEC, number 1 in realignment moves. Utah to the Pac-12 was number 2 for him. West Virginia to the Big 12, number 9, as I mentioned, with Nebraska from the Big 12 to the Big 10 being at 10. Do you think, like Andy does, that West Virginia to the Big 12 was a bad move?
I don't think it was a bad move. I think we both needed each other at the time, for sure. Obviously, West Virginia was coming off an unprecedented run in the Big East, and obviously, had won 2 BCS bowl games at that point in time, and was about to be 3 when all this happened, because West Virginia would win an Orange Bowl with Dana Holgorsen before they came over to the Big 12. So, obviously, West Virginia was on a Boise State type tear at that point in time, and was one of the. Actually, an SEC deal almost happened for West Virginia, and Missouri was a team that was chosen instead. That's a true thing. So West Virginia was left. The ACC didn't want West Virginia because they were academics, because West Virginia guarantees that if we were West Virginia resident, you're getting in. We're going to figure it out, and unfortunately, that does hurt our academics. So, yeah, on the field, West Virginia has been a huge disappointment coming from that. Coming from, think of what we were then and what we are now, it is definitely 2 different things. And the loss of Rich Rodriguez from that point on till now, these are 2 different programs in all sports. But I would say that if you consider what Bob Huggins did and what West Virginia has done under Neil Brown's obviously was tough, but the Dana Holgorsen era had some really good football teams. Some teams that challenged or at least were in the conversation for Big 12. But certainly if you're considering just the 2 big sports, I would say it's been a massive disappointment on the field. But that doesn't count everything to me. You're not talking about how do they fit culturally? How do they fit within tradition? How does the fan support? We're all elite with all that, right? West Virginia, when we went and played in the bowl game against North Carolina in Charlotte, it was an 80-20 crowd, right? Like Neil Brown got covered in Mayo, and it was an 80-20 crowd. West Virginians traveled to games. Unfortunately, in the Big 12, the games are so far away, not as many can travel. But yeah, if you're just talking sheerly on the field, and I don't know financially what the components would be without looking, I don't know. Ninth seems a bit harsh. Well, who's behind this? Rutgers, most likely.
Nebraska. Rutgers is buried way down there, but yeah, for sure. Yeah. Those are bad moves.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious to how other people would feel that as a West Virginia fan, I understand why that people would have us lower, but we ain't done yet. And I think we'll have a chance to improve it. Can I just ask a question? Like, how is Utah? So how are they the savior right now when where they're ranked at? You're just asking because they had one good year last year. What have they done besides that in the Big 12? It's not really being judged on the same scale. Like they haven't had as much time to be really good or to mess up like we have. We've been here for 12 years at a disadvantage. Like this is like the first 10 years where it was just us. We were the only team that had to travel to every game like we did. Huge disadvantage for our athletic department, especially financially.
Also, if I may, like Missouri's below 500 in the SEC since they went there. They've had 3 good years, 2 under Pinkel and 1 under Drinkwitz. They were actually, at the top of not even top of college football, but they were near the top of the SEC. West Virginia's had at least 3 years of their 12 in the Big 12 where they were near the top of the Big 12 conference. Right. It's not like they've just bottomed out. This ranking from Staples has UConn as an moving independent as a better move than West Virginia coming to the Big 12. He has Colorado to the Pac-12 as a better move than West Virginia coming to our conference. And Paul, you touched on this. I want to go here next. I feel like from the Big 12 perspective and point of view, this conference makes sense. And I get it. West Virginia regionally, it's weird, it's funky, it's different. But it is 16 teams that are just scrappy, that have scrapped together, survived college football and what it's hit them with over the last 3 decades and said, you know what? We'll do it ourselves. We'll make it work ourselves if we have to. West Virginia's part of it. Yeah, I get it. I get that West Virginia and Colorado don't have a lot of similarities. But the similarity that brings us all together is no one really wanted us bad enough. That everybody didn't believe in what those schools had to offer. Colorado out of the Pac-12, didn't get a Big Ten invite. West Virginia is leaving the failing Big East to go to the Big 12. The ACC didn't like the academics. I love the culture of the conference because everyone was told no at some point.
That's a great point. There's something to say about that resilience. Almost like you've got a bunch of Rockies in the same conference, right? A bunch of guys that, maybe were looked upon as less than, and that becomes your superpower together. Look in basketball, what it's become. You would have thought that, and people thought that the football would fall off with Oklahoma and Texas leaving, and it hasn't. The program, somebody tell me legitimately, is the conference less strong than when Oklahoma and Texas was in it? It's not. It's stronger. Look at what Texas Tech is doing. Oklahoma nor Texas did what Texas Tech just did. Oklahoma nor Texas did what TCU did a couple years ago. Yeah. So, call me crazy, but I feel like we're doing all right. It's just, I don't want to go as far as to say indoctrination, but the level of glaze that the other conferences get does, I think, at the end of the day, make people think that we are worse off than we are as a conference. I think we're doing all right. Financially, it could be better. On the field, I think we compete really hard. And, like I said, look at what Texas Tech did. We've always got somebody in the fight. And don't look out now, but BYU is still coming. Texas Tech is still coming. Give Oklahoma State a couple years. Let's see what Rich Rod does here. Scott Frost may have UCF moving in a good direction. Obviously, what Willie Fritz is doing at Houston right now. Come on, man. That guy in year 2 did things that I don't think many people thought could be done at Houston. Dana Holgorsen never did it. And they've got all those people back. What's Houston going to be this year? Are they going to be a team that potentially gets into the race, football wise anyway, and we already know what they are in basketball. We're already the best basketball conference. So to me, it's more narrative driven than it is what the actual truth is, if you want to ask me.
Do you, in all of this, Paul, we'll wrap up here. Do you feel like ultimately, if you can go back, do it all over again, West Virginia to the Big 12 was still the correct move at the time and is working out today?
I do. I think that, we made a bad hire and Dana wasn't necessarily a bad hire. I think it was a necessary hire because of the powers that were in charge at the time and Oliver Luck and company. They were thinking, okay, we'll get a Big 12 guy who knows the Big 12, that knows the landscape. Dana, who was under Gundy, Dana, who was under Leach, and that style of ball was being played at the time. It seemed like it would work, and it did work to an extent for a while. There were some good football teams under him, but the Neil Brown hire really set West Virginia back. It was just, if you want to be mediocre, that marriage made us mediocre. And I think that's what most people look at when they're considering us, on a lower level. It's the last 6 years have really just done major harm to the flying WV logo. So I would say, yes, I think it's still going to be fine. I really do. I think Rich Rod's going to get it turned around. I really do. And I think Ross Hodge, we've got a 5-star and income. We got a 5-star we're probably going to get, and we got a 4-star coming next year. So I think basketball will be fine. And I think we'll end up winning again. But right now, in the thick of it, 4th coach in 4 years, say year or two of a rebuild, it's tough. But I do think that we will right the ship before 2030.
And could there be a West Virginia basketball team that's in March Madness this season? I'm not going to rule it out. Here's why the Mountaineers might be there. This is the Locked On Big 12, Locked On West Virginia crossover.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. South Carolina rolled past Ole Miss 85-48 to clinch a share of the SEC regular season title and lock down the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. The Gamecocks extended their win streak over Ole Miss to 21 straight. UCLA dominated Wisconsin 80-60 to secure its first outright Big Ten regular season championship in program history. The Bruins improved to 27-1 overall and remain unbeaten in conference play. And number 12 TCU stormed back from a 13-point fourth quarter deficit to beat Iowa State 80-73. The Horned Frogs now sit alone atop the Big 12 standings and are one win away from clinching another regular season conference crown. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Mountaineer Paul of Locked On West Virginia with us on Locked On Big 12 here. And Paul, at the time that we're recording this, we're a few minutes away from Oklahoma State and West Virginia tipping off. Mm-hmm. And look, I don't think, and this is me being insane, that it's a must-win game for WVU. But the next three become that if they lose. I assume West Virginia is going to win this game. But even if they don't, there's still a path to March Madness. Because look, if you finish this season, the regular season, with 19 wins, 20 wins in the Big 12 Conference, 19-12, 20-11, that is a March Madness resume. That's a March Madness record. Do you think West Virginia is not getting enough national respect as a team in the middle of the pack of the Big 12 as far as their postseason is seen?
Yeah, I think I wish I could say that, but unfortunately, when you lost to Utah and when you lost to TCU in 2 straight games, it just really puts a damper on it. And, as a fan, you're still hope that they can get it righted. The defense is elite. If you look at the metrics, it's still a top 15 defense in all the country. It's just our really good shooters have gone cold over the last 7 games. We can't explain why. Teams are really just bombarding Honor Huff off of the ball screen or anytime he comes off a screen for 3, and that 5'10" height is coming into play. Yes, he led college basketball in threes, and yes, he was on pace to do it again this year until the last few games. So it's going to take him catching fire again, because if we can get to 70, our defense is good enough. We've held multiple teams in the 60s this year, so I think we're good enough to. It's all about coming out of this slump, and you'd hope it's a slump and not a trend, because the team is good enough defensively to win in March, and they're definitely unique enough to win in March, especially because it becomes such a guard-driven tournament in March. But yeah, I do think that you win tonight. It's huge for the ego. You go back home against a hampered BYU team, like we said off camera, and then all you have to do is beat 2 teams you beat on the road in UCF and Kansas State, at the end of the day. So I think those are, you've already beat those 2 teams. So the 2 that really matter are tonight and against BYU, in my opinion, and then you just have to repeat what you did. It is hard to beat a team twice in a year, but I think West Virginia, I watched those games. In the Big 12, styles make fights. Some teams match up better against others than some do. And I think with West Virginia, anytime you're playing us, if you're a team that is not solid on defense, where West Virginia can actually score some points, then we become really tough to beat, because we're going to hold you to below your average most always.
Paul, the idea West Virginia gets into March Madness so let me preface this by saying I've been, as an Arkansas fan growing up, or a Baylor fan when I was there and around the program, some years you're just not going to make it. 5 games out, like, you know what, there's a miracle scenario, but I'm throwing in the towel. I'm ready for the NIT. I'm ready for next year. Do West Virginia fans still hold on to hope that March is out there, or is the towel already thrown in?
I would say it's probably 60-40 towel thrown in to holding on hope right now from the numbers that I see in the basketball videos that I do. There are fans that still believe, but it's definitely because of how the last couple of games have gone. Losing to Utah is just unacceptable. Yeah. But we had an incredibly, just almost historic game in shooting in a bad way. So that day, I think if we win a game, people will be right back on the bandwagon, Drake. It's just how it works, prisoners of the moment. And I think that in a good way, because this team needs the support. And then have they had it, like our coach always says, KenPom has the Coliseum as the number 1 rated home environment in all of college basketball. That's not me saying it. That's not him saying it. That's KenPom saying it. And so if we can get into a scenario where we like ourselves at home, and I think we'll have a shot, but it's going to be tough because we've got, BYU coming in, and I think we're better than Oklahoma State, but we'll see how we play tonight.
Yeah. Paul, for the future of the program? What is a piece of this to me is Ren Baker reaffirming a commitment to West Virginia, making a historic announcement, 3 or 4 months ago, and putting his foot down, and the state and the school being behind him. Does that mean West Virginia basketball is committed to winning? That in the Big 12, despite how much of a gauntlet this league is, that West Virginia wants to compete every year?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's 100%. We're number one. Ren Baker is a basketball guy. He actually coached women's basketball before he was an AD. I don't know how many people know that. So he coached a year of women's basketball. He has many, many, many connections around the country, basketball connections, and is probably one of the best consultants out there when talking about hiring people. He's just nailed every hire he's ever made. So, Ross Hodge is a guy that Ren Baker is handpicked for this. There were other guys, Jared Calhoun at Utah State, that was a Huggins guy. Others that many people thought would have been better hires, and he picked Ross Hodge. Grant McCaslin and a bunch of guys have come out and said he's an elite coach. And West Virginia has already flexed some of that muscle by getting 5-star Miles Sadler, his teammate Alio Doom, and they've got another teammate who's a 5-star in that Bella Vista Prep squad there in Arizona that are close to, like I said, the 1 5-star is going to come visit West Virginia. We feel good about it. But we've got 2 of the 3. And yes, financially, they are committed to Ross Hodge. Ren Baker controls that. And trust me, Ren Baker is not going to let this fail. It's just not. It's not going to be because of finances. Can I promise we'll go to a BYU level with it or wherever, Houston? I don't know about that. But I do know that Ross Hodge will have what he needs to build a squad.
Mountaineer Paul, where can folks who listen to Locked On Big 12? God, I hope they know who you are. I hope they're already listening to your show. But if they just were birthed yesterday and somehow had the sentience to come to this show and listen to this, where can they find your work?
If you were just birthed yesterday, bring your afterbirth. We accept that too. Locked On West Virginia, 7 days a week, twice a day. We try to keep up with Drake, who puts out 3 or 4 a day sometimes. And we're just chasing everyone. We're all just chasing Drake around here. We all know it. It's fine. We're good with it. We're just thankful for you guys and Drake as well for having us on.
Matt Moscona would like a word. There's a new sheriff in town.
That's true. The LSU guy, man, he's
top notch and he's got great sources. Matt Moscona does an awesome job. Mountaineer Paul, find him at Locked On West Virginia. This has been and always will be. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. A crossover with West Virginia and Dose Grande.